Michelle again, and I'm going to show you a bonus bracelet now. The braided suede bracelet. That would be this one here. Okay. And we're going to use suede, a button, some Swarovski crystal cup chain, and a little bit of string. And also some 24 gauge soft wire. To start this, what I do is center my suede cord on my button. You notice that I'm using a 2-hole button over here that I put a jump ring through so I can accommodate the size of cord that I'm using. You can also use a jump ring on a button that has a shank that's too small to accommodate the cord that you're going to be using. It's one way of using the buttons that you have. Okay, I'm going to center my button on the suede. This. And what I'm going to do is get my piece of string. This happens to be about a foot of microcord that kind of blends in with the color of my leather. And I'm going to half hitch it around my leather where it's folded like this. Okay. Half hitch is like a luggage tag knot, so I folded my microcord in half and I'm pushing the tails through the portion that's bent in half. Like this. And you see that I formed a loop that holds my button in place. Now I'm going to split the two tails of my microcord. So one thread shows up on either side of my leather. I'm just gonna do half of a square knot just to anchor everything in place. Like this. And then I'm going to get my cup chain. Like that. I'm going to wrap my microcord around between the first and the second crystal once, and then I'm going to tie another square knot just to bind that to the leather. This is a little bit of a smaller cup chain than the one we were showing in the Glitzy Glam bracelet. It has a little bit more flexibility when we're doing our braiding, so I prefer the smaller crystals in the setting to do this project here. Okay, we want to finish our square knot, and we want to make sure that everything is cinched pretty tight because that's actually what's holding your bracelet together in the beginning. Okay. And then I'm going to feed a little scrap piece of leather through here, and I want to secure it to my clipboard so that it's easy to braid my cup chain and my leather. So now I have my piece secured to my clipboard with my piece of leather here, and I'm just going to start braiding. You notice that I have 3 strands, so it's like braiding hair. It'd be a 3-strand braid. That's. And I want to keep the suede kind of in the same plane. I don't want it to be twisting all around as I'm doing the braiding. So keeping it as flat as you can is the goal. So you notice that just like when we're braiding hair, I'm taking my right thread and I'm bringing it over the middle, which then goes to the right. Then I'm taking my left strand and going over the middle. Then I'm just repeating that. Right over the middle, left over the middle. And of course you want to make sure that the cup chain stays facing the same direction the whole time as well. Okay, left over the middle, right over the middle, and just keep braiding until your bracelet is the correct length. We started with a little piece of cup chain that was a bit longer than your finished desired length because the chain does shrink as you braid it. So this piece that we started with was about 7 inches long. Okay, that's about as long of a braid as I'm going to get with my cup chain length here. So what I'm going to do now is get ready to tie off this end of my bracelet. So I'm going to use another piece of microcord. This again is about 1 foot long. Fold it in half like this, and I'm going to half hitch it around my 3 pieces of around my 3 strands. Like this. And you want to make sure that your half hitch ends up between 2 crystals like this. In this case, it's the last crystal on the end of my cup chain and the second to the last crystal. I don't want it to be above where the end of the cup chain is. So I'm half hitching my microcord around my 3 strands. Then I'm going to split the 2 ends, of which one is going to come around the back of my piece, and I'm going to square knot the 2 ends together. And you want to make sure that this is really tight because this is what's holding your bracelet together. Okay, square knot. So if you want, you can bring one of the cords around the bracelet again and do another square knot. So after you square knot your threads together, we're ready to glue those knots with our hypo tube cement. We want to glue them so your knots don't unravel, and we want to do it on both ends of the bracelet. Okay, and while that dries, we will do the loop at the end of our bracelet. Take it off the board. Okay, turn it around, and I'm going to overhand knot. Just once near the end of my bracelet. Okay, and I'm going to leave a space between where I bound off my piece and where the overhand knot is so that there's enough room for my button to go between the 2. Okay, you want to cinch that kind of tight. Knotting the suede cord is a little bit trickier than round because the knot tends to be a lot bulkier, so I don't want to make a whole bunch of knots at the end. I just want to do one. That's good. Like this. Okay. So I have my piece like this. Once the glue is dry, we can trim those thread ends away. And because we put the glue on the knot, we can trim really close to where we knotted the threads. We have our 24 gauge soft wire here because we just want to make that knotted cord look a little bit better. So we're going to cover it up by coiling the wire around the microcord binding. Okay, so you're going to coil it around 3 times. Like this. It's about 1 foot of wire, and you notice that I'm not using all of it or even most of it. I'm just using a little bit, but it's easy to use a longer piece of wire than you need and just trimming it away. And the reason why we use the microcord to tie off and we're just using the silver wire as a decoration is that it's really hard to use the wire itself to bind everything together really securely. but it's a nice look, so that's why I'm adding it here. Now we're going to use a chain nose plier to tuck the ends down and make it a little bit neater. I'm going to do the same thing for this end. So the wire is purely decorative at this point. I'm going to use my chain nose plier to press the ends down just a little so that they don't snag on things. And that is our braided suede bracelet.
Thanks, Michelle. You did a great job.
Thanks.
If you like watching Michelle share her tips and tricks, join us on our YouTube channel. It's called The Bead Gallery, one word, and we'll see you later. Aloha.
Aloha.